God says, stop here. Do not scroll past this one. I have a surprise for you, and it is not what you expect. Sit still for a moment. Let the noise around you settle. What I am about to tell you needs your full attention, not a passing glance while you're thinking about something else. You have been waiting for something, quietly, without always naming it clearly even to yourself. Today, that waiting begins to make sense. God says, the surprise is not a single event arriving on a specific date. It is a shift, already beginning, in how you see your own life. That shift is the surprise, and it is more valuable than anything that could simply be handed to you all at once. Think about how long you have been carrying a specific hope, one you have almost stopped mentioning out loud because it started to feel embarrassing to keep hoping for something that hadn't yet arrived. That hope was never foolish. It was a flame, small and quiet, that never actually went out, even during the seasons you assumed it had. God says, I have been guiding that flame the entire time, even when you couldn't feel its warmth, even when it seemed like the wind of your circumstances should have extinguished it completely. It did not go out. It could not, because it was never only yours to protect. It was being protected on your behalf, through everything you walked through. Here is the surprise, part of it, revealed slowly rather than all at once. You are closer to that hope than you have allowed yourself to believe. Not because circumstances have suddenly become easy, but because you have become someone capable of carrying it now, in a way you were not capable of carrying it before. Think about the specific version of yourself who first started hoping for this. Compare that version to who you are today, having walked through everything since. Notice the difference honestly. That difference is not incidental. It was necessary, a required part of becoming ready for what is now approaching. God says, I do not surprise people with things they are not yet ready to receive well. The timing of every surprise is chosen carefully, matched specifically to the moment a person has become capable of receiving it without it overwhelming or destabilizing them. Today is that moment for you. Consider what has changed in you recently, subtly, in ways you may not have fully credited yourself for. A patience that wasn't there before. A clarity about what actually matters, sharpened through difficulty rather than dulled by it. A quiet confidence, built not from comfort but from having survived things that once felt insurmountable. That growth was preparation. This is what it was preparing you for. God says, the guiding flame I mentioned is not only a metaphor for hope. It is also a literal description of what has been leading you, quietly, through decisions you may not have fully understood at the time. Choices that felt uncertain in the moment but that, looking back, formed a clear path leading exactly here, to this exact message, on this exact day. Think about a decision you made recently that felt uncertain, even risky, at the time you made it. Consider how that decision has actually unfolded since, and notice whether it led you somewhere unexpectedly aligned with where you needed to be. That alignment was not luck. It was the flame, guiding you steadily, even through moments you doubted the direction entirely. God says, here is more of the surprise, revealed a little further. Someone is coming into your life, or already present but not yet fully recognized, who will matter more than you currently expect. This is not necessarily romantic, though it could be. It might be a mentor, a friend, a collaborator, someone whose presence will shift the trajectory of something important to you, in ways neither of you can fully predict yet. Consider who has recently entered your life, or who has recently deepened in significance, someone you may not have given full weight to yet. Pay closer attention to that relationship going forward. It carries more importance than it may currently appear to. God says, here is another layer of the surprise. An opportunity is forming, not yet visible in its final shape, connected to something you have quietly wanted to pursue but have hesitated to fully commit to, out of fear it might not work out the way you hope. That hesitation is understandable. It is also no longer necessary in the way it once was. Think about the specific pursuit you have hesitated over, the one you have mentioned to few people, if anyone, because saying it out loud felt like it made potential failure more real. Consider revisiting that pursuit today, with fresh eyes, understanding that the conditions around it have shifted more than you may have realized. God says, the flame guiding you has not been guiding you toward comfort. It has been guiding you toward alignment, toward a version of your life where what you do and who you are actually match, rather than existing in the quiet tension that has characterized so much of your recent experience. That alignment is the real surprise, more valuable than any single event or achievement could be on its own. Consider what alignment would actually feel like for you, specifically, practically, in the ordinary rhythm of an average day. Waking up without the low hum of dissatisfaction that has followed you through recent months. Facing difficulty with resilience because the difficulty serves something that genuinely matters to you. That feeling is closer than you think. God says, this message will continue, because the surprise has more layers still to reveal, but pause here for a moment first. Consider what has already been said, and let it settle before continuing further. Some truths need room to breathe before more can be added on top of them. If this message reached you today, believe that its timing was chosen deliberately. Comment below if you feel a surprise quietly forming in your own life right now, even if you cannot yet name its exact shape. Share this with someone who has been carrying a quiet hope of their own, someone who needs to be reminded that their flame has not gone out either. There is more still to say, because a surprise this significant rarely fits into a message this short. God says, here is the next layer of what I have been preparing for you. There is a specific fear that has been quietly limiting how much you allow yourself to hope, a fear that if you hope too fully and it doesn't come through, the disappointment will be worse than if you had simply protected yourself by expecting less all along. Consider that fear honestly today. It has cost you more than it has ever protected you. Think about how much energy you have spent bracing for disappointment rather than actually enjoying the present possibility of something good. That bracing, however understandable given past experience, has quietly dimmed the flame more than any external circumstance ever could. Today, consider setting that bracing down, even briefly, and allowing yourself to actually feel hopeful without immediately preparing for its potential failure. God says, hope held fully, even when the outcome remains uncertain, is not naive. It is actually the more courageous choice, because it requires you to remain vulnerable to disappointment rather than protecting yourself preemptively through detachment. Consider choosing that courage today, deliberately, even knowing it carries risk. Here is another layer of the surprise, one connected specifically to your relationships with the people closest to you. Consider that the flame has also been guiding certain conversations, certain reconciliations, certain deepenings of connection that you may not have fully recognized as significant when they happened. Think back over recent months and notice any relationship that has shifted in a way that felt meaningful but that you may not have fully credited as part of a larger unfolding. God says, relationships matter more to the surprise being prepared for you than you might initially assume. Much of what is coming will be shared, experienced alongside people who matter to you, rather than achieved entirely alone. Consider who you want to share this unfolding season with, and consider strengthening that connection deliberately, starting today. Think about a specific person you have been meaning to reconnect with, someone whose absence from your regular life has left a quiet gap you haven't fully addressed. Consider reaching out to them today, understanding that this reconnection may be more connected to the surprise being prepared for you than it initially appears. God says, here is a further layer, concerning your own creative or professional gifts, whatever specific form those gifts take in your particular life. Something you have been developing, perhaps privately, perhaps without much external validation so far, is closer to being ready for a wider audience or a larger application than you currently believe. Consider what specific skill or gift you have been quietly developing, one that has not yet received the recognition or application you have hoped for. Trust that its readiness is closer than it feels, and consider what small step you could take today to move it one step closer to being shared more fully with others. God says, patience with this development matters, because rushing a gift before it is fully ready often produces a weaker result than allowing it the additional time it genuinely needs. But patience does not mean inaction. Consider what deliberate practice or refinement you could commit to this week, continuing to develop what is already forming rather than waiting passively for readiness to simply arrive on its own. Here is another layer of the surprise, concerning a specific pattern of self-doubt that has followed you for longer than you would like to admit. That doubt, however persistent, is not an accurate reflection of your actual capability. It is simply an old habit of mind, formed through specific past experiences, that has continued operating long after those experiences stopped being relevant to your actual current situation. God says, consider what evidence exists in your life right now that contradicts this old pattern of doubt, evidence you may have been minimizing or dismissing because it didn't fit the story doubt has been telling you about yourself. Weigh that evidence honestly and fairly, rather than letting older, more painful evidence continue to outweigh everything more recent and more positive. Think about a specific recent accomplishment or moment of genuine capability that you quickly dismissed or minimized rather than fully acknowledging. Consider revisiting that moment today, giving it the full weight and recognition it actually deserves, rather than continuing to discount it the way old patterns of doubt have trained you to do. God says, here is a further piece of the surprise, connected to a specific decision you have been avoiding, one that has been sitting quietly at the edge of your awareness for longer than you would like to admit. That decision is more ready to be made than you currently believe, and continuing to avoid it is costing you more than actually making it, even if the decision itself carries some risk. Consider what specific decision has been avoided, and consider what information you would need to gather, or what conversation you would need to have, in order to finally move toward making it rather than continuing to postpone it indefinitely. Today is a good day to take that first step, even if the full decision itself still requires more time. God says, the guiding flame has been present through every one of these areas, quietly working, quietly preparing, even during the specific stretches when you felt most disconnected from any sense of guidance or direction. Trust that presence, retroactively applied to seasons you walked through without fully recognizing it at the time, and trust it moving forward into whatever comes next. If this message reached you today, believe that every layer shared here arrived precisely when you were ready to receive it. Comment below which specific layer felt most relevant to your own current life. Share this message with someone who has also been quietly hoping, quietly doubting, quietly waiting for a surprise they haven't yet fully recognized as already forming around them. There is a deeper layer to this surprise still waiting to be revealed, one that requires everything shared so far to fully understand. God says, the flame guiding you was never meant to lead you toward a single destination and then stop. It leads continuously, through one season into the next, each surprise building on the last rather than existing as an isolated, unconnected event. Consider what previous surprises in your life, moments that once felt significant and unexpected, connected to what came after them in ways you may not have fully traced until now. Think about a past moment that felt, at the time, like a genuine surprise, something unexpected that shifted your trajectory in ways you couldn't have predicted in advance. Consider how that moment connects to where you currently stand, and notice the thread running from that earlier surprise through everything since, leading to this exact moment, reading this exact message. God says, this pattern will continue. Today's surprise is not the final one. It is simply the next link in a chain that will keep extending as long as you remain open to it, as long as you continue trusting the flame rather than assuming, prematurely, that you have already received everything meaningful this season had to offer. Here is a further layer, concerning timing specifically. Consider that the exact moment you receive certain surprises matters as much as the surprise itself. Receiving something too early, before you were ready to handle it well, could have produced a different, less beneficial outcome than receiving it now, at exactly this point in your development and readiness. God says, trust that the timing of everything currently unfolding has been considered carefully, even the parts that felt frustratingly slow while you were living through the waiting. That waiting was not wasted. It was necessary preparation, ensuring that when this surprise finally reaches its fullest expression, you will be equipped to receive it well rather than being overwhelmed or destabilized by it. Consider what patience for the remaining timing would look like for you now, understanding that some elements of this surprise are still unfolding, not yet fully visible, requiring continued trust even as other elements have already begun revealing themselves more clearly. God says, here is another layer, concerning what you will do with this surprise once it fully arrives, because a surprise received is meaningful, but a surprise applied and shared becomes something larger still. Consider, in advance, how you want to use whatever specifically arrives, not only for your own benefit, but in ways that extend outward toward other people in your life as well. Think about who in your life might benefit from whatever specifically forms from this unfolding surprise, whether that is a skill developed, an opportunity received, a relationship deepened, or simply a clarity gained that you could then offer to someone else navigating something similar. Consider that extension as part of the surprise's full purpose, rather than something separate from it. God says, gifts received and then shared tend to multiply in meaning, far beyond what they would have accomplished if kept entirely private. Consider this multiplication as part of what makes this particular surprise significant, not simply for what it does for you individually, but for what it makes possible more broadly, through you, for other people as well. Here is a further layer, concerning gratitude specifically, practiced now, in advance, before the surprise has fully and visibly arrived. Consider expressing gratitude today for what is already forming, even in its currently unfinished state, rather than waiting until it has completely materialized before allowing yourself to feel thankful for it. God says, gratitude practiced in advance, before an outcome is fully visible, tends to deepen a person's capacity to actually recognize and receive that outcome once it does arrive. Consider what specific gratitude you can genuinely offer today, for the process itself, for the growth it has already produced in you, regardless of exactly how the final outcome eventually takes shape. Think about 3 specific things connected to this unfolding surprise that you are already grateful for today, even before knowing its complete final form. Naming them specifically, rather than only vaguely, tends to deepen the actual felt experience of gratitude more than a general sense of thankfulness held only abstractly. God says, here is a final layer before this message begins moving toward its close. Consider what would change about how you move through today, specifically, if you genuinely believe that this surprise is real, already forming, closer than it currently feels. Would you approach a difficult conversation differently? Would you take a risk you have been avoiding? Would you extend more patience to someone who has been testing yours lately? Consider acting today as though this belief were already fully true, not through blind, unfounded optimism, but through a deliberate choice to move as if the good you are hoping for is genuinely possible, because it is, and because the flame guiding you has already begun bringing it into clearer view. If this message reached you today, trust that its timing mattered, arriving exactly when you were ready to receive both the surprise itself and everything required to actually recognize and receive it well. Comment below if you feel this flame guiding you clearly right now, even amid uncertainty about its exact final form. Share this message with someone who needs to trust their own guiding flame today, someone who may have quietly assumed theirs had gone out. There remains one final, deeper layer to this surprise, one that ties everything shared so far into a single, cohesive understanding. God says, everything described in this message, the flame, the guidance, the specific layers of surprise unfolding across your relationships, your gifts, your decisions, all of it points toward one central truth. You are not moving through your life randomly, hoping something good eventually happens by chance. You are being led, deliberately, through a process specifically shaped for who you are and what you are capable of becoming. Consider what it means to actually trust that leading, fully, rather than only partially, hedging your belief with quiet skepticism that keeps you from fully receiving the confidence this truth is meant to offer. Full trust does not mean passive waiting. It means engaged participation, taking the steps available to you while trusting that the overall direction is sound, even when specific details remain unclear. God says, here is something further worth naming plainly. The flame guiding you has never required you to be perfect in order to continue leading you. Every mistake you have made along the way, every wrong turn, every moment you doubted or resisted the guidance being offered, none of it disqualified you from continuing to be led forward. The flame's guidance has been persistent, not conditional on your flawless response to it. Consider a specific mistake or wrong turn from your recent past that you have quietly worried might have derailed something important. Release that worry today. The guidance continuing to unfold in your life was never contingent on a flawless track record. It has simply required your continued willingness to keep moving forward, imperfectly, which you have done. And which is enough. God says, here is a further truth, perhaps the most important one in this entire message. This surprise, in all its layers, is not actually separate from you. It is not something external being handed to you from outside your own life. It is, in large part, who you are already becoming, made visible, revealed gradually as you continue walking forward with openness and trust. Think about what this reframing changes about how you relate to the surprise being described throughout this message. It is not simply an event to wait for passively. It is a becoming, already happening, that you are actively participating in through every choice, every step, every moment of trust you extend toward the process even when its full shape remains unclear. God says, consider what specific choice, available to you today, would most directly participate in this ongoing becoming. Not the whole journey, planned in advance. Simply today's choice, clear enough that you could actually make it before this day ends, moving you one step further into who you are already becoming. Here is the final layer of today's surprise, saved until now because it required everything else to be fully understood first. You already possess, right now, in this exact moment, everything you actually need to continue moving forward well. Not everything you might eventually want, but everything genuinely necessary for the next step, and the step after that, and the one after that. God says, this sufficiency is itself part of the surprise, a reminder that you have never actually been as unequipped or unprepared as fear sometimes convinces you that you are. Trust that sufficiency today, applied specifically to whatever next step is currently in front of you. Consider what it would mean to move forward today from a place of genuine sufficiency rather than persistent lack, trusting that you have what you need for this specific step, even while continuing to grow and develop what you will need for steps still further ahead. God says, this message is now complete, having revealed every layer of the surprise that was ready to be shared with you today. More will continue unfolding, gradually, as you continue walking forward with the same trust this message has been asking you to extend throughout. Stay open. Stay attentive. The flame continues. If this message reached you today, believe that everything shared here was true, meant specifically for you, arriving exactly when you were ready to receive its full depth. Comment below the word flame if you feel this guidance clearly present in your own life right now. Share this message with someone who needs to trust their own guiding flame today, someone who may have quietly assumed, incorrectly, that it had already gone out. Thank you for staying with this message until this point. There is one final thought remaining before this message truly closes. God says, the final thought is simple, but it carries weight worth sitting with fully before you close this message and return to the rest of your day. The surprise described throughout this message was never meant to remain abstract, admired from a distance without ever actually touching how you live. It was meant to change something, today, in some small but genuine way. Consider, one more time, what specific action, however small, would demonstrate that this message actually reached you, rather than simply being read and then set aside like countless other messages before it. Not a grand gesture. Something ordinary but deliberate, chosen today because of what you have just read. God says, that action, whatever it turns out to be, is where the surprise actually becomes real in your life, rather than remaining a pleasant idea considered briefly and then forgotten by tomorrow. Take that action today, before this feeling has a chance to fade back into the ordinary noise of daily life. Think about who else in your life might benefit from hearing about this surprise, this flame, this ongoing guidance you have just been reminded of. Consider sharing not only this message, but your own genuine experience of what it stirred in you, with someone who might need exactly that kind of encouragement today. God says, sharing your own experience, honestly and specifically, tends to matter more than simply forwarding a message without personal reflection attached to it. Consider what you would actually say to someone about what this message meant to you, and consider saying it, today, to at least one person who comes to mind. Here is a final practical consideration before this message truly ends. Consider keeping some record of this specific moment, whether through a journal entry, a note on your phone, or simply a clear memory you intend to return to later. As the surprise continues unfolding in the weeks and months ahead, having a record of this exact moment, when you first felt the flame clearly again, will help you trace the connection between this message and everything that eventually follows from it. God says, that record will matter more than it might initially seem, becoming evidence, later, of exactly when this specific chapter of guidance began making itself clearly known to you. Consider creating that record soon, while the details and the feeling remain vivid and easy to capture accurately. Consider, finally, what hope feels like in your body right now, having read this entire message. Notice any physical shift, however subtle, compared to how you felt when you first opened it. That shift is real, and it is evidence that something in you has already begun responding to what this message was meant to offer. God says, carry that shift forward into the rest of your day, letting it inform how you move through whatever comes next, rather than allowing it to fade the moment ordinary life resumes its usual pace and demands on your attention. If this message reached you today, believe that it carried everything you needed, both the surprise itself in all its layers and the practical guidance for actually receiving and living from it. Comment below if you plan to take one concrete action today because of what this message stirred in you. Share this with someone who needs to feel their own flame reignited today. Thank you, sincerely, for staying with this message until its very last word. The flame continues. The surprise is unfolding. And you are exactly where you need to be to receive it fully. Before you truly close this message, take one final moment. Place your hand over your heart, feel it beating steadily, and consider that the same flame guiding your life has been present in every beat, every breath, every moment you have walked through to arrive at this exact point, reading these exact words. God says, that flame has never once been extinguished, no matter how dim it may have felt during your hardest seasons. It has been carefully tended, protected, guided, even in moments you felt entirely disconnected from any sense of guidance at all. Trust that now, fully, rather than only partially. Consider what you would say to that flame directly, if you could speak to it the way you might speak to a trusted guide who has walked every step of this journey alongside you, even when you couldn't feel its presence clearly. Say it, quietly, wherever you are right now. Trust that it is heard, fully, exactly as you intended it. God says, this ongoing relationship with the flame, this guidance that continues shaping your life in ways both visible and hidden, is available to you daily, not only in dramatic moments like this one, but in the ordinary rhythm of everyday decisions, everyday conversations, everyday choices about how to spend your attention and your energy. Consider building a habit of checking in with this guidance regularly, not waiting for another dramatic message to arrive before paying attention again. A quiet moment each morning, asking simply what today requires of you. A brief reflection each evening, noticing where the guidance showed up during the day, even in small, easily overlooked ways. God says, this regular practice, however brief, keeps the connection active and current, rather than allowing it to remain dormant until another significant moment forces your attention back to it. Consider what specific time of day might work best for you to build this small, sustainable habit, and consider beginning it as soon as today. Think about what specifically you hope to notice more clearly through this practice, whether it's simply a greater overall sense of peace, clearer decision-making in moments of uncertainty, or a deeper felt connection to the guidance that has clearly been present throughout your life, even during the seasons you doubted it most. God says, whatever you hope to notice more clearly, trust that this practice, sustained consistently, will help deepen your access to it over time. Growth of this kind rarely happens instantly. It happens through consistent, small returns to attention and reflection, repeated regularly, gradually deepening a connection that was always present, simply not always fully recognized or actively cultivated. If this message reached you today, believe that it offered you both a surprise worth celebrating and a practical path toward sustaining connection to the guidance that made that surprise possible in the first place. Comment below if you plan to build a regular practice of checking in with your own guiding flame going forward. Share this message with someone who needs both today's surprise and this ongoing practice in their own life. Thank you for staying with this message until its true and final word. The flame continues, quietly, faithfully, exactly as it always has. Trust it, tend it, and let it lead you forward into everything still ahead. One last thought before this message closes completely. Consider what tomorrow might look like if you woke up already expecting good things to continue unfolding, rather than bracing cautiously against further difficulty the way you may have grown accustomed to doing. That shift in expectation, small as it sounds, changes how you actually move through an entire day. God says, expectation shapes perception more than most people realize. Two people can walk through an identical day, and the one expecting good things will notice more evidence supporting that expectation, while the one expecting difficulty will notice more evidence supporting that instead. Neither is imagining things. They are simply attending to different aspects of the same reality, shaped by what they expected to find. Consider choosing, deliberately, to expect good things tomorrow, not through denial of genuine difficulty that may still exist, but through a conscious decision to remain open to noticing the good that is also present, rather than only the difficulty. This choice, practiced consistently, gradually shifts your overall experience of daily life in ways that compound significantly over time. Archangel Michael says, this expectation is not naive optimism disconnected from reality. It is simply a recognition that reality contains both difficulty and goodness simultaneously, and that where you place your attention shapes which of these you experience more vividly. Choose to place more attention on the goodness, starting tomorrow, and notice what shifts as a result. If this message reached you today, believe that it was meant to shift not only your understanding but your ongoing daily experience, starting tomorrow and continuing forward from there. Thank you, one final time, for staying with this message until its very last word. The flame is real. The surprise is unfolding. And tomorrow is already being shaped by the choices you make today. Consider one final breath before you go, slow and deliberate, marking the true close of this message and the genuine beginning of everything it has revealed to you today. God says, that is everything for now. Go gently, go expectantly, and go knowing the flame that has guided you this far has no intention of stopping now. Archangel Michael says, carry this surprise with you into the rest of your day, letting it soften whatever has felt hard lately and brighten whatever has felt uncertain. It is real, it is yours, and it is already unfolding, exactly as it should. God says, this message is now truly complete. Carry what you needed from it, release the rest, and trust that everything ahead is unfolding exactly as it should, guided by the same flame that brought you safely to this exact moment. Archangel Michael says, thank you for staying until the very last word today. That patience itself was part of receiving the surprise fully, rather than only partially. Consider what you will tell someone tonight, if they ask how your day went, and consider letting today's message quietly shape that answer, even in some small way you hadn't expected before reading this. God says, "Go now, carrying the surprise, carrying the flame, and carrying everything you needed from today into all the days still ahead of you." Archangel Michael says, "Consider returning to these exact words tomorrow, and the day after, whenever you need a reminder that the flame guiding you has never actually gone out, no matter how quiet it may have felt during your hardest stretches." God says, that flame belongs to you now, fully, to carry into every ordinary moment still waiting for you today. Archangel Michael says, "Walk gently, walk expectantly, and walk forward, trusting fully in everything this message has revealed to you today." Consider one final time everything you were carrying when you first opened this message, and notice how much lighter it feels now, having read all the way to this final line. That lightness is real, and it is yours to keep. God says, that is truly everything for today. Go now, carrying the flame, expecting the surprise, and trusting fully in what continues to unfold. Archangel Michael says, "Thank you, sincerely, for opening this message today and staying with it fully until its true final word." Consider sharing this exact message with someone whose flame may feel dim right now, someone who needs exactly this reminder today, more than they may realize. God says, this is the final word. Go now, in peace, in hope, and in trust.